Welcome to the Festival of Storytellers. I thank everybody that's involved with this process because we know writers need readers and writers need publishers.
Experience is not about the publisher, it is about us, the authors.
Welcome to the Festival of Storytellers, Chapter 5. This is the session on crafting stories for young readers. And I'm so excited that you're all here, and hopefully I'll see you again in a minute. I can't see you right now. There you are. Yay.
Thank you.
So welcome. This is so exciting. So happy to have everybody here. Just a couple quick housekeeping things. If something happens in your world that is loud, your dog barks, your phone rings, whatever, please put yourself on mute. But if you want to talk, please take yourself off mute. Sometimes that's harder to remember than it seems it should be. And about halfway through, we will have a commercial break where we'll be able to watch some amazing commercials that Reader's Digest has made for some of the other authors. So that will be very exciting too. Okay, we're going to get started. I want you to think about, in a minute, we'll go around the room and introduce ourselves. But first, I'm going to do something else. What book were your favorite? What book or books were your favorite growing up, and why? What did you learn? And if you can't remember what were your favorites, maybe what were your children's favorites? Okay, Carmen.
I loved anything that was mystery. So
Mystery.
I used to read all of the Nancy Drews. I read all of the Hardy Boys. All of them. I don't know why I was so intrigued with them, but I absolutely loved the mystery.
Awesome. So that started when you were 10-ish?
Probably before that. I think maybe around 6 or 7 I had been reading. Yeah.
Wow. Mysteries at 6 or 7.
Yeah. My mom was reading since I was maybe 3 years old, just reading.
That's so exciting.
Loved it.
So exciting. Anybody else? What book was your favorite growing up? Kids. All right, Tanya.
I shared this before. Carmen may have heard it. But my favorite book, and I read the Nancy Drew ones.
Love that one.
But my absolute favorite, oh goodness, was Where the Wild Things Are. I love that book, and that's when I really started reading. And I would read it every night. It would be nighttime out, and the window was right by my bed, and I used to read it every night.
Nice. That's a great one. That's great. Yeah. I love all those. So you were probably 4-ish, 5-ish?
Something like that, yeah.
Like that. Maybe you were younger and somebody read it to you.
Maybe 5 or 6. Because I think I was in, I was born in November, so there's something about the school and how they do your ages and all that kind of stuff. And my granddaughter's 5 and she's just starting to read. So about that.
Yeah. Probably about that. Yeah. That's really, really cool. Anyone else want to share theirs? Yes, Melanie.
So I was a Nancy Drew fan as well, but I have to say my favorites growing up were the stories that were in the Childcraft
I
encyclopedias.
remember those. Yep.
But also my favorites still today are the C.S. Lewis Chronicles of Narnia books.
Yes.
Yeah.
Love those books.
Yeah, those are great books.
I used to read
So-
them out loud to my fourth graders, and they absolutely
Nice.
loved them. Loved them.
So the Childcraft was younger,
Yes.
3 to 5. You probably had it read you. And then C.S. Lewis, more 10-ish and older.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Great. Anyone else want to share those?
I read Dungeons and Dragons books, Dungeons and Dragons
doesn't-
novels, modules. It's a role playing game, as well.
Right.
So that was like my prelude to acting and getting into filming.
Nice. And that again was probably what, 12 and older?
14 to adult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
14. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I'll
I haven't
still
read
play.
those. Yeah. That's good. Hey, we all have a little kid in us.
Mhm.
Think about what do children's books accomplish in general? What do children's books accomplish? Is it just silly little stuff that we read just for fun? Robert.
Yeah, first I just want to throw in that what I like to read. It seems like a lot of Hardy Boys fans on there. I was well, but at church when the preachers' sermons would get boring, they had these little books that we called Our Daily Bread, and they had really cool stories.
Oh yeah, I know those.
So I would read those.
Yeah, Our Daily Bread. Yeah.
That was like 5 to 7. Is that what they're written for? Around that age or older, younger?
Daily Bread. I don't know.
I think it was written just for the congregation. Anyone that would,
Got bored?
pick it up and read.
Anyone ever done?
Huh.
It's like the
Okay.
airline. It's like the airline magazines. You don't know what to read.
Right.
Well, I mean, it's smart. They give you, it's the only choice. That and the Bible are the only things you can, and the hymn book were the only things that you had a choice to read, actually.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Teresa, welcome to our group. We're glad to see you.
Thank
We were
you.
Hi, Teresa.
Hi.
Hello again.
We were just talking about what books were our favorite when we were growing up.
Okay.
Did you have a favorite book growing up?
Actually, I had a favorite bunch of books. It was the Childcraft books that my parents bought us kids, and we would read everything in them all the way to the 12th book. But
Nice.
I really liked all of the fairy tales and the little rhymes and things like that.
I was going to say rhymes because I remember a lot of rhymes in that too. Yeah.
Yeah,
Nice.
I liked listening to all those rhymes and everything.
So we were also just talking about in general what children's books accomplish. Are they just silly things that we put out there that just occupy our kids so they don't make us crazy, or is there other reasons?
Yeah.
Jan first. Jan.
Well, I'm a literacy expert, so I write to promote literacy and I'm early childhood, but I also write to help children with emotional issues. So my books are always focused on literacy and all kinds of learning as well.
So even learning about themselves, even learning about their emotional selves.
Absolutely, things that they go through in the world and that they can relate to. My books are also written to parents and readers of the books to promote across academia. So it's more than a book.
Right. I love that. I love that for parents as well.
Oh yeah.
Very nice.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
There's a great quote by Einstein that says, "Imagination is more important than knowledge." And I'm sure as some of you have heard him talking about fantasy and imagination, he says if you want to make your kid smart, help your kid to be smart, let them use their imagination. And how many children's books that we can think of is imagination such a core piece, right? It's such a core piece. So remembering how important that is. But children's books can also do, like you were saying, Jan, help with certain issues, emotional issues, bullying, different issues like that. What about getting kids to just love to read?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
My
That
books are
is-
for children to learn to read, they're based on elephants and my love of elephants, but each
Oh.
one also covers an
Nice.
actual problem with elephants. The first one covers poaching, the second one, natural predators, the third one, loss of habitat. So it's not only for entertainment, but it's hopefully to teach them that these are real issues with elephants today and them being endangered, and kind of not only for enjoyment, but to teach them what's really
Teach
going
them
on.
some. Right. So there's both sides and they both have value. Amir, were you trying to say something?
Yeah, definitely. As far as like trying to get kids to read nowadays, again, for me, one of the biggest things that actually drew me to start reading was when Pizza Hut would have their pizzas and get the, the I forgot, the book club or whatever they had. But that inspired, at least in incentivizing to try to promote that readership. But then also having, quality books be promoted that would engage.
Yeah.
Whether this, the child like different sport books. Like for me, it was sports books, right? So, and the Hardy Boys was there too, but yeah, it just those were the books that kind of draw me out, and then started reading Agatha Christie books like for the mysteries as well. But it's just trying to nowadays. I mean, I know teachers are really struggling trying to really say, hey, besides that, like the video game, type of stuff, like what can engage you, and they try to get to those books as soon as they can.
Right. That's great. And even like comic books are sometimes more appealing to kids because of all the pictures and things like that, which is wonderful. Yeah. Carmen, did you have something to add?
Yes, you mentioned the comic books. I loved Archie. I couldn't get into the
Oh, yeah.
It seemed like I'm an Archie, Betty and Veronica, the Hardy Boys, and it seemed like I'm that type of person. Yeah, I couldn't get into the Marvel. I don't know why. It just seems so hard,
Oh, yeah.
But I was still into. I had all of the Archie comic books, and I as a child I loved to read. But going back to one of your questions about us really delving into these stories, I think for me it was more of an escape. I dealt with a lot of adversity growing up. And sometimes just, getting into that book and getting away from reality really just helped me, kind of face myself. Although I couldn't physically move myself, I was able to mentally and emotionally move myself into a whole different arena in life, and then eventually I'll come back to reality. But I think it's important for us to provide that same opportunity to the youth these days. They just don't have it as much as we did. So
And that really, what you're talking about too, is you being able to use your imagination.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, I haven't known you long, but I know one thing: you're a pretty intelligent woman. So that
Who told her? Thank you.
So being able to use your imagination in such a way that really did help you develop into the person you are today, which is awesome.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's great. And Tanya.
It's so funny. I wanted to tell you guys that I hated reading. I could not stand reading. Not when I was a kid, not when I was in my 20s. And it's amazing that I'm an author now, and it's so important for me to have everybody read. I don't know if that came when my kids started growing up and my grandchildren, And knowing that you were just talking about it, knowing that, they're taking textbooks out of schools.
Oh,
And
yeah. Not only
it's
textbooks, other books too.
it is the
Yeah.
most horrific thing I've ever
Yep.
heard. And someone just talked about the teachers and stuff, and how they're, trying to work together to do this. They're taking teachers out of school. They're reducing the amount of teachers we have in school. And for me, growing up as a young Black girl, I wished I'd have taken more advantage of that when I was young. My mother, we had Encyclopedia Britannicas. We had, I don't know if you guys know this, but we had what you call Tell Me Why books. It was a series of 3 books, and it was called Tell Me Why, and it was everything. Why does it rain? Why is the ground, why does it get wet? All kinds of questions. But we did read these books together, like with my mother, but I never liked reading. I think I was just really active. I was an active kind of person, but I also was very wayward, and I don't think that, if I read much, I do believe that I might have gotten more into intellectual things and stuff like that when I was in my 20s and 30s. But now I find it to be the most important thing in the world is to have books.
Yeah.
So that people can learn, not just learn, but so they can also, like you talked about, emotions, feelings, and different things like that.
Learn all kinds of things.
Yeah.
All right. Well, now we're going to talk about the 5 things that are important when you write a book. Hi, JP. Good to see you. I'm going to read a little bit from a book, and I want you to tell me who is it? Who are the characters? So there's 2 characters in this little paragraph. I'm going to say character A and character B instead of their names. As soon as you know who it is, I want you to shout it out. Character A always liked a little something at 11 o'clock in the morning, and he was very glad to see character B getting out the plates and mugs. And when character B said, honey or condensed milk with your bread, he was so excited that he said both. Who said that? Yes, Teresa, it's Winnie the Pooh. Who else?
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Raise your hand if you knew it was Winnie the Pooh. So there's two of us, 3 that knew it was Winnie the Pooh. Think about why. Why did you know who that was?
Winnie the Pooh always liked to eat.
Honey.
What?
The honey he always liked to eat, and the honey.
The honey that he always liked to eat, the honey. So did A.A. Milne do a pretty good job of character development?
Yeah.
Yes.
That was one of his strong suits, right? I mean, if we had read Winnie the Pooh, he had such strong characters. There was Winnie the Pooh, who was so kind. There was Rabbit, right? Who was exactly like my mother-in-law. There was, okay, maybe that doesn't have exactly the reach I was expecting, but
Eeyore, who belonged in Jan's books.
Right. Eeyore, who was always down. So he was so good at writing that book. What do you think was A.A. Milne's reason for writing? What was his intention? What did he want you to get out of reading his books?
Lots of personalities and lots of different differences, I think.
I think maybe how to be a friend.
Yes, differences in
friendships.
personalities and how they can work together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Even when they had conflict, like Tigger made a lot of them crazy, right? Him bouncing around, especially Rabbit, maybe Rabbit crazy. But how did they learn to resolve that conflict? How did they learn what was really important in friendships? And of course, other things too. But that was, and not to eat too much honey and then try to get in a round hole. Let me read another thing, and I want you to tell me who's the author. Just suppose you were poor Herbie Hart, who has taken his thrumbdibulator apart. He never will get it together, I'm sure. He never will know if the gick or the gore fits into the scrux or the snucks or the snore. Who is that?
Dr. Seuss.
Dr. Seuss.
I was about to say that sounds like a cat in a hat type book. And I couldn't
Yes.
Yes, exactly. Even though I'm sure whoever said cat in the hat, I mean, Dr. Seuss had never read this particular book.
No,
You
but I
still
grew
knew
up.
who the author was.
I grew up with Dr. Seuss, and that was what I was going to say. Is when you were saying what books did you like, anything that rhymed. Dr. Seuss kind of led to that.
Right. So that rhyming was one of his tricks, right? That got you to remember. Mm-hmm. What else? What else got you to remember Dr. Seuss?
Just ridiculousness.
Yeah.
Ridiculousness.
Exactly.
Right. What about, what?
It's almost as if you're saying, what are you talking about? The
right.
And a goose and a goose.
Why would you do that?
You know, it's like,
you had to use your imagination to figure it out.
Yeah. Yes.
Because he wasn't talking words. I don't know what a gick and a gore is, but I used my imagination and I assumed what gick and gore was. So word choice, so important. His word choice and sentence structure, really for both of these authors. Because just the word choice when he's talking, when Pooh is talking, his word choice is just so simple. So one-mindedness, I want honey, right? And I'm going to be a good friend. So those are the things that really drew you into the story and made it so memorable. So memorable. So when you're writing a children's book, one of the things, of course, that's so important to think about is what age are you writing this for? Critical. When you guys were talking about the Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew, that obviously is like what age?
Mm-hmm.
Teens. Yeah, like double digits, 10 and above.
Yep. I think. I just want to say I think that's a little difficult for us older ones because I don't know if you think of the song that talks about the end of the innocence and kids nowadays they're at a different level of they have so much more information. The world is so much more complicated, and it's hard to get down to where we were just basic and simple, and things like Dr. Seuss and the Hardy Boys,
right?
Pretty much the limit.
Right. And I wonder, I have 1 and 2-year-old grandkids, and some of the books they still love are like Dr. Seuss. Do you remember There's a Cow in the Road? That one?
I don't remember that.
So we can still reach those kids, but you're right. You have to be creative and think about, is this story written for a child who is not a reader, who is going to have the story read to them, or are they going to be reading it on their own? It's also a huge distinction. Because what does it sound like when you read it out loud? Is it fun to read? Is it kind of sing-songy? Like, yes, Carmen.
You mean Tanya?
Tanya, I'm sorry.
Carmen. No, I was just wondering, I had a question in the question that you were asking, because I see that we were doing crafting stories for young readers, but I keep hearing children. And so I was kind of wondering, is it that or not? Because I actually reach out to young readers. My books are for like teens and up. Like who was it? Robert just talked about. Robert just said that the readers of today they have so much information that they have to process, and there's so many things, and that's exactly what I do in my books. I'm meticulous, very meticulous, because we're in that kind of a society now, and the millennium generation is really who I'm reaching out to, because they really need it so much.
Yeah. And, I really think, and I think young readers is, it's pretty broad. I think it's from beginner books all the way through to like 18. Yeah, character development is very important, and it resonates with children in different age groups. I think as you're trying to reach those older young readers, like double digits, 10 and up, I think it's important for characters to be relevant and authentic. I think that is one of the things that this generation is so hungry for, is just truth and something that's relatable, something that teaches something. It is a very different world. It's a very different world. And you're right, when we're writing books, we really have to be aware of that. And I think like when Melanie was talking about, who has the elephant books?
It's Melanie.
It is Melanie. I thought so. I think that is really relevant. I think kids want to know like what's going on in the world that's real, and in a way that they can relate to and not be afraid. I think these kids have been so scared so many times. I think something that, helps them to feel safer or in control of their world is probably helpful too. Let's see, we have about a couple minutes before we go to our break. So word choice, as we were talking about, what types of stories should be read by 3 to 5-year-olds? Easy ones to read. Yes, Carmen. Now for real, Carmen.
No, ones with no pictures. What are you talking about?
Yeah. At that age, a lot of things are happening where kids are trying to figure things out. It's important to craft stories that's going to let them understand how friendships are developed, learning how to compromise, but also learning how to say no, especially in these times, with trafficking and everything. And although we've dealt with a lot of abuse in the past and molestation and incest and all of that stuff that tend to happen, I think it's important for the children to read those types of books so that they can say, Mommy, this happened, or Daddy, this happened. Something that can provoke some thoughts to be like, wait a minute, that did happen to me. What do I do? Definitely stories that's going to help guide them and teach them that it's okay to ask questions, and it's okay to say that somebody did something that was very, very bad, but they're not going to get in trouble because they didn't do anything wrong. It's important for them to understand that.
And it doesn't even have to be directly about trafficking, because that might be pretty scary for a 3 to 5-year-old, but just a story that lets them know they deserve to be heard, and that what they say can be listened to, like a story about a little kid that doesn't want Uncle Arthur to hug them. And then so the choice of, okay, this child, I don't have to get hugged by him. I can do a fist bump, and that's okay. So just a story that lets the child know that they're worthy of being heard, for sure. So word choice and sentence structure, again, is very important. And that's going to make a huge difference on the age, right? Definitely.
Right. Yeah.
So what you say and how you say it. illustrations. I think Amir said something, I think it was Amir, about, yeah, you want to have books. Like, look at this. Let's see. You see that? This is the Dr. Seuss.
Oh, yeah.
It's just all color and, really draws the reader in.
Yeah, it's like for my book. I don't have it with me right now, unfortunately, but it's downstairs. But so the illustrations again, is just drawing something, either simplicity.
Right.
For my book, I mean, I wanted to keep it very simple.
Yep.
So I had original drawings that I have within the book. So it kind of gave it to, like, this is what a kid would actually draw, right?
Nice.
Versus okay, I can go get an illustrator. So the cover that I have right now, it was drawn by my youngest daughter. So
that's so cool.
And so that's that thought itself. So that's how approaching.
Cool.
So you definitely, as you think about a book, it's like, do you want to get the real illustrators, which definitely can do an awesome job, but for me, I was looking for a very, very specific type of thing, because since I wrote my story when I was in 6th grade, I wanted to have the feeling that this book was completely created by kids, and that's what you have. That's the illustrations done by my daughters, and then me being young as a 12-year-old,
Writing it. That's exciting. Yeah, I think that makes a big difference. All right, now we're going to take our break, our commercial break. We'll be right back in a couple minutes. See you in a bit. Welcome back. Just a couple more things and then we're going to move on to the publishing end. So the fourth thing is it takes a village. So who is involved in writing a children's book? Who's important to have on the team?
Your family.
Your family?
That's good. Yes.
Carmen.
Vicky, you definitely want to have some children.
Yes.
Have any, recruit some from the neighborhood and figure out what it is that they want to hear or what it is they may want to talk about. And I think that goes with anything that we do, identify what our audience actually wants. You know, we don't want to write something that maybe they don't understand or they don't want. But there's a lot of kids in the neighborhoods, you know, or your family members or whatever. Just talk with them, and you know, even as you're drafting your story, maybe cater it to them and see what they think about it, and let them give you some input. You know, let them feel involved. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like Robert was saying, it's, you know, it can be hard to reach kids. You might even see if you could talk to somebody at a school, and I know schools can be hard to get in these days, or a church or something where you can connect with the age group of people that you want to reach and kind of ask them, what would you love a book about? What would be important for you? What's important as the characters?
Yep, that's exactly
Rob,
what I'm doing
yeah,
in a couple weeks. Actually, I've talked to a lot of schools, you know, about my book. Again, since this book was
good.
as an assignment, it brings these kids into that mentality to think about, you know, writing their own stories as well. So definitely, you know, reaching out to schools like this is very important.
And they've been open to that, Amir?
Yeah, luckily, through a series of bookstores that they have relationship with the schools, or that I had like some festivals that I participated at where some principal coordinators of these schools are in the area, you know, are interested in, and they have like these
Right.
recitals. It's usually happening for Dr. Seuss Week. It comes usually in March, so should be across
Nice.
the nation that it does happen. So you might want to see what schools in your area that might have that, and you know they promote that where you just go on campus and read. You can read your story, promote it as well, and I've done it three years in a row. Um,
Nice. That's a great idea, Amir. That's great. And then be willing to make changes, huh?
oh yeah,
Yeah. That can be the hard part with an editor, which is another person on the team, right? Somebody who's going to read it and give us some feedback about the book. Melanie.
I was just going to say my 9 grandchildren are in my 3 books,
Nice.
several in each book. And so I talked with them, but as the books came out, I went to their classrooms to read the books to their class. And a lot of times their
Nice.
classmates gave me ideas, like one little boy just spouted out, "So Tambo's going to have a baby?" And in the 3rd book, she does. And
Oh,
that's
wow.
the idea came from. She starts out in the 1st book as a baby herself, and it's her life growing up through the 3, and then she becomes a mother in the 3rd one. So that idea actually came from another student as I was reading, you know, one of the other
That's
books with
nice.
me. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's really exciting. Really cool. And of course, an illustrator, unless you are able to do that yourself too. But an illustrator is another important person. Okay, so now the 5th thing is the intention of what do you want the reader to get out of your book? And some of you have mentioned a very clear intention. Jan, who else said theirs? Tanya said, right? Was it Tanya? So if you want to go around the room now and say the name of your book and either what is your intention, what do you want the reader to get out of it, or which one of those things, that you word choice, sentence structure, illustrations, it takes a village, so the collaboration. So if one of those is super strong for you, or what do you want them to get out of your book? So I'm going to go around the room as you are on my screen. So I'm going to start with Teresa. What is the name of your book and what do you hope kids get out of it?
This is my book. It's called Marsh Wiggles. It's Heather Davy and the Marsh Wiggles. And it's I just want to them to imagine, you know, the kids like to explore and be curious. And it's about a little girl who's curious and tries to she sneaks away from her uh, friend or her babysitter, I guess it is, and goes searching for fairies and like
Nice.
that. And what happens when she goes out exploring? And I just want them
That's
to
cool.
have fun and think
Nice.
that they can do something that is grown up.
Yeah, and some imagination piece.
Uh-huh.
Robert, I won't make Angie go since she just got on. Hopefully, you've been listening, Angie. Have you been able to hear
Yes, you
us?
want to go ahead?
Yeah, go ahead, Robert. We'll give Angie a minute.
Okay. Yeah, my books actually it didn't have to be a lot of research because it's basically on memory. It's just an autobiography of growing up as a young boy in the 60s and 70s. And what I want people to get from my book is the life lessons and an importance of three institutions that I think currently have been degraded to a certain extent, and I would love to see a comeback. And those are the church, school, and nuclear families. I think those are three things that are just super important in the lives of children, and so that's what I think.
Nice. Good. Good luck with that. That's a good topic. Amir.
Yeah, so my book is called Speedboat Race. In Spanish es Carrera de Lanchas Rápidas. For my book, again, it's an inspiring book about a racer trying to overcome last minute adversity, but also continuing with this process of growth to try to overcome his his continued expertise in being a racer. And so to get what I'm drawing the kids to think about is they have to practice in their lives. They have to continue with what they're doing to be motivated to get that success. And then you are going to run into that thing that's going to impact you. You might get injured. You might again lose things, and you get impacted. But then how do you overcome that? By your consistency, your practicing, and to become familiar, and then you just continue to move forward to that success. And that's what this story is about. Illustration
Nice.
and as well for the actual student itself, again, creating a book, from a simple story to becoming an author isn't also the other. So its creation is also a message as well.
Nice. And there was a tag that went across the screen that said it was great that you had some merchandise to go with your book.
Yeah,
Another great way to have multiple streams of income from the same book.
Yeah. I usually try with the book. I have like a little speedboat that
Nice.
I put with it along with just a simple bookmark. So yeah.
Angie, are you able to say the name of your book?
Yes.
Oh, good. We can hear you. Great.
All right. So my book is trying to get it. God Made the Farm.
Nice.
This book is so dear to my heart. It took me 2 years to complete this book once I started getting the ideas, but I have felt God's presence in every part of our farm. I grew up on a farm, and then my husband and I bought our own farm 14 years ago, and we raised our children here. We're raising the grandchildren here. But to me, the land is his, the farm is his, the animals are his, and it's amazing to me how he's just created all of this to bless us. I mean, each animal has a specific purpose and way that it blesses us, whether it's food or clothing, the sheep with the wool, transportation, even companionship and therapy. I mean, after a long day, I've been struggling. Going out and spending time with the horses is amazing for me. It just makes such a difference. And we have taught our children and our grandchildren that God is the one who blesses us with everything, whether it's our talents, our creativity, the sun, the moon, I mean, everything. And I just kept feeling such a tug on how could I share that with more children, because I spend my day managing the farm and watching the 4 grandchildren. And so I don't really get out all that much socially. And so this was just something I wanted to do and share that. And I was overwhelmed with the support I received when I put a Facebook post up and announced it. And then I've since then created a companion coloring book to go with it that just got published. So
oh, cool. I could see a video being cool too with that.
I do have a small trailer that I've used as a little ad. And then I had somebody reach out to me, actually my twin sister, and said, because she has her own business, but she's like, you know what? You should have me make a puzzle, an acrylic puzzle that
That'd be cool
uses
too.
the animals. So we are working on that, but I did all the illustrations myself. And
very cool. I love that.
Thank you. I have a
It's great
series
way to
planned.
yeah. Oh, good. To get kids to learn about the farm, which a lot of them don't have access to.
Right.
Jan, is there anything you want to add about your books? You didn't tell us the name for sure.
I'm sorry, what?
You didn't tell us the title of it, but is the title?
Oh, well, I have several books. I have like 60 children's books and
60
about curriculum books. But the one that that we're featuring right now is 12 Little Ducks, and it was just derived. A lot of my books are like real life stories that I turn into a fictional story. But I think the first thing I want my readers to get is just pure enjoyment, because if they don't enjoy the book, they're not going to come back to the book. And all of the books have multiple themes, multiple ideas, concepts woven into them. So it's not so much what I want you to get out of it, it's what you see. It's what the child or the adult reader sees as the concept to be talked about. And so my book supports multiple ways of using the book, from social interactions to diversity, to science, social studies. So the 12 Little Ducks was happened when I was down at my park along the Arkansas River, and these little balls of fluff kept dropping at my feet, and I'm like, and waddling off, tiny. And I wondered what it was. I never knew that anything could drop out of a tree. And I went home and discovered that wood ducks do indeed nest in a tree, and they drop when they're a day old. And I made a whole story about how the ducks jumped differently, how they plummeted or soared or whatever. And so, and how the mother waits for them at the river, and then they all go off. But so I like a lot of real life. I also like a lot of realistic pictures, because children relate to those best. The younger, the more realistic pictures should be. So that's really important for me.
Nice. Thank you. That is really cool. I love how you said what the kid wants to learn. Tanya.
I've actually written 4 books, and I'm writing one now. The one I wanted to talk about today was Found in a Garbage Can, Generation X to Generation Next, the End of the Godless Age. And Carmen's heard this story times over. but my mother used to say I was found in a garbage can when I was little. And, it was the cutest thing between us, no, I'm not, yes, was, all that kind of thing. and I don't know, it just fit with the book. It fit because the Generation X to Generation Next, it's the End of the Godless Age. It all has to do with when I was small and how I became aware of myself. And, through whatever interactions and the waywardness that I had in my life. I'm the kind of person who talks about the real, what's going on, what I've done. And it's some hard stuff in these books. That's why I want to reach out to teens and older, because they are in this world, and this world is very, very hard. Very hard, and gets harder like every day, like we talked about, electronics and stuff, just, moving ahead so fast, and they don't get any time to catch up with their emotions or see something ahead that they should not, get into or something like that. And I want to tell them before it happens. I want to make sure that they know Not, not, oh, okay, I'll do something, I'll say something when something happens. I don't want that to happen. I want my children are wonderful. My children are wonderful. They're grown. I have grandchildren, but I tell them the real. They know the real of my entire life.
Yeah.
And it wasn't all good. So, but that's what I think I bring. That's what I think I bring is the real.
Good. Yeah. All right. The next three real quick, and then we'll talk about publishing a little bit. Lonnie.
My books are not children's books. They're nonfiction. I'm the author of Moorish American Nationality Keys of the Moorish American Institute, The Book of Moors, and the best business book, What Colleges and Universities Don't Teach. The black, white, and green between what colleges and universities don't teach in 30 days and 30 pages, 33 pages in 3 days. Yeah, that's the full subtitle. So can I relate a question? Can I relate an answer to that question about children?
Sure, go ahead.
Question.
Yeah.
Linda, could you repeat the question?
Oh, repeat the That's not what I heard you say, Lonnie.
Right.
Yes, just the name of your book and what you hope people get out of it, or what if there was one of those things you're really good at, like word choice, sentence structure.
Well, what I hope people get out of my book is the seriousness of nationality, being identified with nationality.
And Tracy walks by and goes into
takeaway from my book is research. It's nonfiction, it's history, and it's culture, so it's a tremendous amount of research. And often what I find towards the end is the art is chiseling things away. I will come up with a tremendous amount of information, and then I have to get rid of a lot of it simply because it all shouldn't fit in one book. So
what's important?
It's fun getting rid of things too. I like that. It's like cleaning the room up.
Good. All right, Carmen.
Hello. So my book is Your Warrior Stance, Releasing the Warrior in You. Okay.
I love that cover.
Yes, this is the second book, and I'm currently working on my third book. But releasing the warrior in you your warrior stance, releasing the warrior in you can be used at all ages. It's an actual workbook. And, at times it's great to go through and read books and read fiction and read nonfiction and get ourselves into, fantasy land. But we also have to deal with reality as well. And your warrior stance teaches each of us how to build strength, how to walk in our confidence, and how to release resilience. And that's a book that can be used at, I'll say, for the way it's written, maybe the early 20s, young adults, all the way up. Warrior Stance is an acronym. So it's talking about 13 principles, basically, that you apply to your life that gives you that stance, that strong, confident, resilient stance that you can walk through life with, that you can face adversity with, which is why on here I have my sword and shield behind me, because that's what you have when you're fighting life's adversities, discriminations, bullying, all of that. You want to have your warrior stance, but it teaches you various things such as setting goals, learning how to create great networks for your purpose, learning how to be the authority over your own craft, using wisdom when you need to use wisdom. So it's a lot of different principles in there. And once you apply them all, that's your stance. And you go and conquer the world.
Nice.
Yeah.
And lastly, Melanie.
Well, I kind of already mentioned what the goal was of my books, but the first one is Tambo, an Elephant Adventure. And in this book, she's born and 2 grandchildren save her from a poacher's trap. And the second book, Tambo, a Lion Adventure, 4 children are threatened by a lion, and Tambo remembers, because elephants never forget, how she was saved from the poacher's trap, and so she saves the children from the lion.
Oh, cool.
And then the last one, Tambo and Her Greatest Adventure. Again, she's had to give up her freedom to live in a game reserve because of loss of habitat. And the last two grandchildren help her when she becomes a mother herself. And
Nice.
so, again, it's just to kind of bring children enjoyment, but also the knowledge of these are real threats to elephants.
Yeah.
And wildlife.
Jill, are you able to talk? I know you've been having some technical issues.
Can't hear.
Yeah, she wasn't able to hear us.
Yeah, I know. Okay. All right. So now let's switch gears a little bit and talk a little bit. We don't have a long time left, but talk about publishing. And obviously there's this, self-publishing and traditional publishing out there. Does anyone have any questions about publishing? I know you've all published some books, so I don't want to go over some things that you already know. Are there any questions? Okay. The only thing I'll throw out, and that's just for people who may be watching this later, is with self-publishing, there's like completely by yourself, which is how I started my first book. And I got no help. I had to format it myself, do the cover and everything and the marketing, and that didn't work out very well. Did anybody else try to just do it all on their own and maybe it didn't work so good? So then there are companies like Reader's Magnet that help you with distribution. You can have help with editing, with a cover design. And mine went through many different things. This was the cover, the second cover when I was getting a little bit of help. And then this is the cover when I went through another company that wasn't very good, didn't do what they said they were going to do. And then this is the one that's Reader's Magnet cover.
Can I see the first one again?
And this is really the second one. If I had found the first one, you'd be like, oh my God, that's horrible.
All right.
Yeah, this is the first one.
All right.
Second one. So and a company like Reader's Magnet can get your book into places that you can't by yourself. At least you can't easily do it by yourself. So they can get it into like Barnes and Noble. They can get it other places besides just Amazon, which is super important. And then you have traditional publishing, which is where they can get it into more places, right? Like any bookstore can take somebody who is traditionally published, but you lose so much. So you don't have creative control, not complete creative control like you do when you're self-published. You need a literary agent, which you need to find on your own. And if they pay you an upfront fee, if they pay you for publishing your book, they give you $10,000 or whatever it is, you don't get any more money until they've paid that $10,000 back by books you've sold, which I didn't realize that until I was researching this. So you may not get another penny for how long it takes to sell that many books. So there are definitely, and with self-publishing, you usually make about 50%. It can vary, but around 50%. So you keep the control and you have somebody helping you. I cannot believe the help I get from Reader's Magnet. And yes, I do have to pay for it, but any of them you have to pay or you just don't get it done. Like if you're doing it yourself, it takes a lot of time if you have that much time and connection. So that's what I wanted to say for sure about publishing. Does anyone have anything that they would like to add about publishing? We have like a minute. Maybe. No.
Well, I don't want to add about publishing, but the key is, there's a lot of people that have stories out there and they've been holding on to those stories. What I would, I admonish you to sit down and write, writing. We all have a story. We all have something that's been on our minds. Just sit down and write. There's nothing that's going to be perfect. as we've mentioned, you'll continue to edit, but you have to get to a point where somebody really wants to read your book. So just get it out there, reach out. There's a lot of tutorials on how to self-publish, and there's a lot of companies out there on publishing. However, I would recommend Reader's Magnet. Since we're on here, we could tell you that it's a real company. Okay.
Right. And they do what they say.
Yeah, there's a lot of companies you don't know if they're real. So we're telling you right now, Reader's Magnet is legit, and they do what they say. And I think all of us have had, just great outcomes with working with them. But definitely right.
Yep, it's really good. And I didn't share, there's a website called Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators that I will share in an email. It's or I put it in the chat, but they're going to make us go away in a second. I'll send it out in an email. It's not a publisher, but it has information on, how to get your book in different places, things like that. So I will send that out in an email. But thank you all so much for being here. And thank you, Reader's Magnet, for having this amazing festival. Yes. And remember, with Reader's Magnet, we share your stories with the world.
Welcome to the Festival of Storytellers.
I thank everybody that's involved with this process, because we know writers need readers and writers need publishers.
Experience is not about the publisher, it is about us, the authors.